ruined my mother's dream." The words did not come from an investor, a journalist, or one of the powerful directors seated beneath the crystal chandeliers of the Grand Siren Hotel. They came from a 9-year-old black girl standing in the middle of the ballroom with both hands planted firmly on her hips. Every conversation stopped. A violinist lowered her bow. A waiter froze with a tray of champagne balanced above his shoulder. Even the security guards surrounding the girl's mother hesitated. Maya Bennett stared directly at Kang Tae-jun, the billionaire CEO whose name could silence an entire room in Seoul. "Your people broke her cake," Maya said. "They called her a thief in front of everyone. And you just stood there." Tae-jun's expression remained unreadable, but something shifted behind his eyes. On the marble floor between them, Amara Bennett knelt beside the remains of the wedding cake she had spent 3 months creating. White sugar flowers lay crushed beneath expensive shoes. Her recipe book had landed open in the frosting. Maya pointed at the destruction. "Now you have to fix it." No one in the ballroom breathed. And before the night ended, Tae-jun would discover that the woman his family had humiliated was carrying the final secret his mother had left behind. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching from as we return to 23 minutes earlier, before the cake fell, before the accusation, and before Korea's coldest sea saw the necklace around Amara's neck. Amara entered the Grand Siren Hotel through the service entrance, pushing a stainless steel trolley with both hands. Beneath its glass cover stood a 6-tier wedding cake decorated with hundreds of handmade gold magnolias. Beside her, Maya carried a small box containing extra flowers, icing tools, and the silver spoon she insisted every important cake needed. "Stop checking it, Mom," Maya whispered. "It's still beautiful." "I know. You checked it 14 times. 13. You checked again when you said 13. Amara smiled despite herself. 12 years earlier, she had believed she would become one of Seoul's most celebrated pastry chefs. A mysterious Korean woman had mentored her at culinary school, taught her forgotten family recipes, and promised to sponsor her for a prestigious hotel program. Then the woman died. The scholarship vanished. Amara's recipe portfolio disappeared, and months later, Siren Hotels launched a luxury dessert collection that looked painfully familiar. When Amara protested, she was accused of copying the company. Employers stopped returning her calls. Eventually, she opened a tiny bakery in Mapo and rebuilt her life while raising Maya alone. Tonight was supposed to change everything. A wedding magazine had selected Amara as one of 6 independent chefs competing for a national hotel contract. Winning would place Bennett Bakery in 12 luxury venues. It was not charity. She had earned her invitation. At the ballroom doors, an event coordinator hurried toward them. "You're late." Amara checked the clock. "We're 11 minutes early. Contestants should arrive 30 minutes before the listed time." The woman looked from Amara to Maya. "Just try not to cause problems. Important people are attending." Maya opened her mouth. Amara touched her shoulder. "Not tonight." Maya stayed silent, but stared until the coordinator looked away first. Inside, the ballroom glittered with crystal lights, cameras, and wealthy guests. At the far end stood Kang Tae-jun. Tall and controlled in a perfectly cut black suit, Tae-jun carried the stillness of a man accustomed to being obeyed before he spoke. After his mother's death, he had transformed Siren Hotels into an international empire. Employees called him the Winter Chairman when they believed he could not hear them. He heard everything. "Is that him?" Maya asked. "Yes. He looks unhappy. He runs 43 hotels. That's a lot of places to be unhappy." "Maya, I'm observing." An older Korean woman stepped onto the presentation platform. Vice Chairwoman Kang Hyran wore a cream suit, a diamond brooch, and the polished smile of someone who concealed cruelty beneath perfect manners. "Tonight," she announced, "Siren celebrates tradition, originality, and excellence." Images of the hotel's signature desserts appeared behind her. The final image was a white wedding cake covered in gold magnolias. Amara stopped breathing. It was based on a sketch she had created 12 years earlier. She remembered drawing it beside her mentor during a rainy night at culinary school. They had hidden a tiny crescent-shaped cut inside every flower. Maya squeezed her hand. "Mom, that looks like yours." "I know." Hiran's eyes found Amara across the ballroom. For 1 second, her smile disappeared. Then she walked directly toward them. "Who invited you?" "The magazine's selection committee," Amara answered. Hiran examined the cake beneath the glass. Its gold flowers were more detailed than the ones displayed on Siren's screen. "You were warned years ago to stop imitating this family." Amara straightened. "Your family built that collection from my work." Nearby guests turned toward them. Hiran lowered her voice. "Be careful. I have spent 12 years being careful." Amara removed the glass cover. Admiration moved through the guests. Cameras turned toward the cake, and one judge stepped closer. Then Hiran reached for the recipe book on the trolley. Amara caught her wrist. "Do not touch that." The room quieted. Hiran pulled free and called, "Security." 2 guards approached. Across the ballroom, Taejun turned from his conversation. Hiran raised her voice. "This woman entered our private event carrying stolen company designs." "That is a lie," Amara said. A photographer's flash burst across her face. One guard grabbed Amara's arm. Maya stepped between them. "Don't touch my mother." "Maya, stay behind me." Hiran leaned close to Amara. "You should have remained in your little bakery." Amara's voice trembled, but it did not break. Stolen things eventually recognize their owner. A judge asked to inspect the recipe book. Hiran seized it first. As Amara reached for it, the trolley rolled backward. One wheel struck the platform. The cake tilted. Amara lunged, but the 6 tiers slid through her hands and crashed onto the marble floor. Gasps filled the ballroom. Amara fell to her knees among broken sugar flowers. Then Hiran said, "Remove them." The guards moved forward. Taejun watched without speaking. Maya looked at her mother's ruined hands, the destroyed cake, and the powerful man whose silence had allowed it. Then she marched toward him. "You ruined my mother's dream." Taejun looked down at her. But when Amara rose to pull Maya back, the neckline of her dress shifted. A small silver flower slipped into view. Taejun's face changed. He knew that necklace. He had placed it around his mother's neck on her final birthday. Taejun did not hear the whispers spreading through the ballroom. He did not see the guests raising their phones or the photographers moving closer. All he saw was the silver flower resting against Amara Bennett's skin. 5 narrow petals. A tiny moonstone at the center. One petal slightly bent to the left. There had never been another necklace like it. His mother had designed it herself. "Where did you get that?" June asked. Amara instinctively covered the pendant with her hand. Maya stepped closer to her mother. "Why?" Taejun ignored the child's question. His eyes remained fixed on Amara. "That necklace belonged to my mother." The accusation in his voice hardened Amara's expression. "No," she said. "It belonged to the woman who gave it to me." Kong Hiran's face lost its color. Only for a second. Then the vice-chairwoman recovered and stepped between them. "Taejun, this is another performance. She probably had it copied." Amara looked at her. "You recognized it before he did." Hiran's jaw tightened. Taejun turned toward his aunt. "What does she mean?" "Nothing. You asked who invited her before you even examined her work." Hiran gave a dismissive laugh. "Because I remember her. She caused trouble years ago. By asking where her recipes went." Amara asked. A murmur passed through the nearest guests. Hiran raised her hand toward security. "Take them outside." "No." Taejun's voice was quiet, but every guard stopped. He walked closer to Amara. Up close, he could see that the necklace was old. The silver had darkened around the edges. A thin scratch crossed the moonstone, damage he remembered seeing after his mother dropped it in the garden. It was not a copy. "What was her name?" he asked. Amara stared at him as if the question offended her. She asked me not to use it. My mother's name was Kong Sun-hee. Something painful moved across Amara's face. Then she whispered. She told me to call her Mrs. Moon. Taejun took a step back. Mrs. Moon. It was the name his mother used whenever she wanted to escape the Kong family's attention. As a boy, Taejun had once found a notebook in her room filled with recipes and signed with those two words. Mrs. Moon. No one outside the family should have known. Hiran reached for Taejun's arm. This woman has obviously researched us. Amara laughed once, without humor. If I had spent 12 years researching your family, I would have found a better way to enter this room than through the service door. She bent to gather the ruined pages of her recipe book. Maya immediately joined her. Taejun watched Amara wipe frosting from a sheet covered in handwritten measurements. At the bottom of the page was a small drawing of a crescent moon beside a flower. The same symbol from his mother's notebook. Maya, Amara said softly, put the tools back in the box. But Mom, we're leaving. Taejun looked toward the destroyed cake. I will pay for the damage. Maya stood so quickly that the box in her hands rattled. You think money fixes everything? Several guests looked away, embarrassed on Taejun's behalf. He had negotiated with presidents, investors, and men who controlled entire industries. Yet this child's disappointment made him feel strangely exposed. No, he answered. But it is a beginning. No, it isn't. Maya, Amara warned. The girl pointed at Hiran. She called my mother a thief. Then she pointed at Taejun. And you watched. Taejun had no answer. Amara closed the stained recipe book and rose. I do not want your money, Mr. Kong. I want my name separated from the lie your company told about me. She took Maya's hand. As they walked out, the crowd parted. No one applauded. No one apologized. But no one looked at Amara as if she were invisible anymore. Taejun remained beside the broken cake long after the ballroom doors closed. Then he turned to his head of security. Find everything connected to Amara Bennett. Hiran stiffened. Taejun. He looked at her. Everything. By sunrise, 3 files were waiting in his office. The first contained Amara's current life. 35 years old, owner of Bennett Bakery in Mapo, professionally trained in France and South Korea, single mother, no criminal record, no lawsuits, no wealthy sponsors. The second contained her collapsed career. 12 years earlier, Amara had been selected for a private apprenticeship funded by the Sun-hee Culinary Foundation. The placement had been cancelled 3 days after his mother's death. Amara was later accused of submitting renowned recipes to another hotel. The accusation had never reached court. It had not needed to. In Seoul's luxury hospitality industry, a rumor from the Kong family carried more power than a verdict. The third file made Taejun sit back in his chair. There was almost nothing inside it. Amara's apprenticeship agreement had disappeared. Her original portfolio was missing from the Culinary Institute's archives. Several emails had been deleted from the school's server. Even the name of the foundation employee who interviewed her had been removed. Someone had not merely rejected Amara. Someone had erased her. Taejun opened an old photograph included in the investigation. Amara stood in a training kitchen beside a woman whose face was turned away from the camera. The woman wore a pale cardigan and held a wooden spoon. Around her neck was the silver flower necklace. His mother. Taejun called his security director. Why did no one find this 12 years ago? No one was asked to look, sir. Who authorized the accusation against Bennett? There was a pause. The order came through the vice-chairwoman's office. Taejun ended the call. Across the city, Amara was scraping dried frosting from the wheels of her trolley when the bell above her bakery door rang. She did not look up. We're closed. I know. Her hand stopped. Taejun stood inside the doorway without an assistant, security guard, or expensive overcoat. He wore a charcoal suit and carried a plain black folder. Maya, seated at a corner table doing mathematics homework, narrowed her eyes. Mr. Dream Ruiner. Amara closed her eyes briefly. Maya. He ruined the dream. Taejun accepted the title without protest. I came to speak with your mother. Did you come to apologize? He glanced at Amara. Yes. Maya shut her workbook. Properly. Taejun hesitated. Maya pointed toward an empty chair. Sit down. We have rules. Amara folded her arms. We? Yes, Mom. Because powerful people apparently need instructions. Taejun sat. Maya stood in front of him like a teacher preparing to discipline a difficult student. Rule 1. You do not call my mother a thief. I never called her that. You let other people call her that. Taejun lowered his gaze. Then I failed to stop it. Maya considered his answer. Better. She raised a second finger. Rule 2. You listen before you decide someone is lying. I agree. Rule 3. You don't try to fix feelings with money. Taejun looked at Amara. I am beginning to understand that. Maya returned to her seat. You may continue. For the first time in years, Taejun almost smiled. He placed the folder on the counter and opened it to the old photograph. Amara's expression changed immediately. Where did you find this? My investigators. You had me investigated. I needed to know how you met my mother. Amara looked away. Taejun softened his voice. Please. It was not a word he often used. Amara studied him for a long moment before removing the necklace and placing it carefully on the counter. Your mother came into the culinary school one rainy afternoon, she said. She wore ordinary clothes, carried no driver, and asked me why I was throwing away burnt madeleines. Taejun stared at the pendant between them. She hated waste. She said imperfect food could still teach you something. That sounded exactly like her. Amara continued. She returned the next week. Then the week after that. She taught me recipes that she said belonged to women whose names had been removed from their own family history. Taejun's eyes lifted. What recipes? Amara opened the stained book recovered from the ballroom. Inside were sketches of gold magnolias, moon-shaped pastries, and handwritten notes in two different styles. One belonged to Amara. The other belonged to his mother. She told me these recipes were my future, Amara said. Then she died, and your family called them stolen. Taejun turned a page. Near the bottom, his mother had written one unfinished sentence. When Taejun is ready, tell him the hotel was never meant to belong to. The remaining corner had been torn away. Taejun touched the jagged edge. Who removed this? Amara's voice dropped. Your aunt. Taejun's hand froze over the torn page. My aunt was here. Amara gave a bitter smile. Not here. 12 years ago. Maya looked up from her homework. She stole the missing part. Amara glanced at her daughter, then back at Taejun. She took more than one page. The bakery suddenly felt too small for the silence that followed. Outside, evening traffic moved through the wet Seoul streets. Inside, the warm scent of cinnamon and butter surrounded three people connected by a woman who had been dead for 12 years. Taejun closed the recipe book carefully. Tell me everything. Amara leaned against the counter. Your mother had been teaching me for almost 8 months. She said she wanted to create a dessert house separate from Siren, a place where young chefs could own what they created. Taejun remembered arguments behind closed doors. His mother accusing the family of turning tradition into property. His aunt insisting that every recipe developed under the Kong name belonged to the company. He had been 26 and too consumed by expansion plans to understand what they were fighting about. She wanted you involved, Amara continued. She talked about you constantly. Taejun's expression tightened. What did she say? That you were brilliant, stubborn, and becoming more like your father every day. Maya looked at him. That was probably not a compliment. Taejun almost smiled again. Amara did not. Your mother believed you could change the company. She planned to introduce us after the new foundation opened. But she died before that happened. 3 days before, Taejun's mother had suffered a sudden stroke during a board retreat. By the time he reached the hospital, she could no longer speak. He had spent years believing there was nothing unfinished between them. Now an entire life seemed to be emerging from the spaces his family had kept empty. "What happened after the funeral?" he asked. "Your aunt came to the school with lawyers. She said Mrs. Moon was actually Kong Sun-hee, and that every recipe she had given me belonged to Siren." Amara's fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. "She demanded the journals, sketches, and apprenticeship agreement. I refused. So she accused you of theft. She told the school I had manipulated a grieving older woman to gain access to private family recipes." Taejun looked down. "And I signed the company's statement." Amara's eyes hardened. Yes, he remembered the document. Hiran had placed it among dozens of urgent papers after the funeral. She said a student was exploiting his mother's death. He had signed without reading the attached evidence. A single careless signature had destroyed Amara's career. "I did not know," he said. "No, you did not bother to know." The words landed harder because they were true. Taejun had expected anger from her. What unsettled him was her control. Amara did not raise her voice or ask for sympathy. She simply placed the truth between them and made him look at it. Maya closed her workbook. "Are you sorry?" Taejun turned toward her. "Yes. For signing it. Yes. For not listening. Yes. For standing there while they broke the cake." His voice lowered. "Yes." Maya considered him for several seconds. "That is a lot of sorry." "It is. Then you have a lot to fix." Amara touched Maya's shoulder. "He cannot return 12 years. "No," Taejun said. "But I can uncover what happened during them." Amara shook her head. "You still think this is an investigation you can control?" "I think my family committed fraud. And I think your family knows how to bury people who threaten them." She took the recipe book from him. "I survived once. I will not let Maya become a target because you suddenly developed a conscience." At the sound of her name, Maya frowned. "I am not scared of his aunt." "You should not need to be brave about this," Amara replied. "You should be allowed to be a child." The words quieted her. Taejun stood. "I will not expose either of you. You already sent investigators. I will stop them. And then, I will search from inside Siren." Amara studied him. "Why should I trust you?" He had no easy answer. Because he was sorry was not enough. Because the necklace belonged to his mother was not enough. Because every instinct told him that Amara had been wronged was not enough either. "You should not," he said finally. "Not yet." That answer surprised her. Taejun placed his business card on the counter. "If my aunt contacts you, call me." Maya walked over and turned the card around. Then she drew 3 small empty circles on the back. "What are those?" "Your progress." "My progress." "1 circle for apologizing. 1 for listening. 1 for fixing the damage." Taejun looked at the empty marks. "How do I fill them?" "We will know when you do." Amara sighed. "Maya, he is not a school project." "No. School projects are easier." This time Taejun did smile. It was brief and unfamiliar, but it changed his entire face. Mara noticed. For one dangerous second, she saw not the billionaire who had watched her humiliation, but the exhausted son of the woman who once believed in her. Then she reminded herself whose signature had destroyed her future. Taejun left the bakery carrying nothing but the weight of what he had learned. The following morning, he entered Siren's private archive without informing his aunt. The archive occupied an entire floor beneath the company headquarters. Contracts, photographs, original menus, handwritten recipes, and decades of family records were stored behind climate-controlled glass. The archivist bowed nervously. "I need everything connected to my mother's culinary foundation." The man's face changed. Sir, those records were transferred. To where? I do not know. Who authorized it? The archivist hesitated. Taejun stepped closer. Answer me. Vice Chairwoman Kong. When? 3 days after Madam Sunhee's death. Taejun's jaw tightened. Show me the transfer register. The register contained 27 boxes. Only 26 had destination signatures. Box 14 had disappeared. Its contents were listed as private recipe journals, scholarship files, partnership agreements and founder's testament. Taejun photographed the page. Then he noticed something handwritten in the margin. Name: Amara Bennett. Behind him the archive door opened. Hiran entered slowly. You should have asked before coming down here. Taejun closed the register. You removed my mother's files. I protected this family from an opportunist. Amara's name is in the original inventory. Your mother was sentimental. She gave Amara her necklace. Hiran's expression sharpened. That necklace belongs to Sirin. No, it belonged to my mother. And now it is being used to manipulate you. Taejun stepped toward her. Where is box 14? I do not remember. You remember everything. Hiran's polished smile disappeared. Be careful, Taejun. Your mother nearly destroyed this company chasing foolish ideas about fairness. Fairness? She wanted to divide ownership among cooks, bakers, and employees who had no understanding of business. She planned to give outsiders control of family assets. Was Amara one of them? Hiran said nothing. That silence was enough. Taejun moved toward the door. His aunt's voice stopped him. You are becoming distracted by that woman and her child. He turned. They are not the problem. Hiran's eyes grew cold. They will be if you keep looking. That afternoon, Bennett Bakery received a surprise health inspection. Then a supplier cancelled Amara's flour delivery. By evening, 3 corporate clients had withdrawn their orders using nearly identical language. Amara read the final cancellation email and felt an old fear returning. Maya watched her from the doorway. Is it his aunt? Amara closed the laptop. I do not know. But she did. A black luxury car stopped outside the bakery. Taejun stepped out holding 2 large bags of flour beneath his arms. Maya stared through the window. Why is the billionaire carrying groceries? Amara opened the door. Taejun placed the bags on the counter. Your supplier was pressured by Sirin. And you brought flour. It is what you needed. Maya picked up his card and filled in the first circle. Taejun looked at it. Which one did I earn? Listening. Amara stared at the flour, then at him. This does not make us even. I know. From inside his coat, Taejun removed a photograph of the archive register. Amara read the contents of box 14. Founder's testament. Partnership agreements. Her own name. Taejun lowered his voice. My mother left something for you. Amara looked at him. And your aunt made sure I never received it. Before he could answer, a stone crashed through the bakery window. Maya screamed. Glass scattered across the floor. Wrapped around the stone was a strip of paper bearing 6 words. Leave Seoul before your daughter gets hurt. For several seconds no one moved. The stone rested among the broken glass, its message facing upward. Leave Seoul before your daughter gets hurt. Amara crossed the room first. She pulled Maya against her chest and turned the child's face away from the shattered window. Are you cut? Maya shook her head, but her hands trembled. Taejun reached for the paper. Do not touch it, Amara said sharply. Stop. She took out her phone, photographed the stone, the message, and the broken window from several angles. Then she called the police. Taejun watched her move through the fear with methodical control. She did not collapse or wait for him to take charge. She locked the back door, checked the security cameras, and asked Maya to sit away from the windows. Only after everything was documented did Amara look at him. You said you would not expose us. I did not send this. But your investigation frightened whoever did. I will place security outside. No, Amara. I will not have armed men standing outside my bakery and reminding Maya that someone threatened her. The threat is already real. So is the possibility that your security team reports to your aunt. Taejun fell silent. She was right. Hiran had helped build Siren's private security division. He could not guarantee where every man's loyalty rested. Maya sat at a table, gripping the silver spoon she had carried to the showcase. Are we leaving Seoul? Amara immediately knelt beside her. No. But the note said, we do not take instructions from cowards who throw stones through windows. Maya searched her mother's face. Are you scared? Yes. The honesty surprised both Maya and Taejun. But being scared does not mean we run, Amara continued. It means we become careful and we find the truth. Maya nodded slowly. Taejun looked at Amara with something deeper than admiration. For years, everyone around him had hidden fear behind obedience. Amara admitted hers and still refused to surrender. The police collected the evidence, but the bakery's exterior camera had gone dark 7 minutes before the attack. Someone had remotely disabled it. After the officers left, Taejun made a call to the only security specialist he trusted outside Siren, a former prosecutor named Lee Dong-wook. Within an hour, Dong-wook arrived with 2 independent investigators. Amara allowed them to review the footage, but only after making Taejun sign a handwritten agreement stating that no recording, customer information, or private detail could be transferred to Siren. Taejun signed without arguing. Maya added a 4th empty circle to the back of his business card. He noticed, I thought there were 3. There are new problems. What does the 4th circle represent? Keeping promises. Amara almost laughed. Almost. Dong-wook discovered that the bakery camera had been accessed through an old Siren Hotel's maintenance account. The username belonged to an employee who had died 4 years earlier. It was designed to lead nowhere, Dong-wook said. Taejun looked at the threatening note sealed inside an evidence bag. Then we stop following the path they created. Amara folded her arms. What do you suggest? We find box 14 before my aunt destroys it. And how do we do that? Taejun placed his mother's old photograph beside the recipe book. Where was this taken? Amara studied the background. The training kitchen was visible, but through the window behind Mrs. Moon stood a narrow brick building with a blue awning. It was not the culinary school, Amara said. Your mother sometimes took me to a private kitchen in Bukshan. Taejun frowned. My family never owned property there. She said it belonged to someone who remembered who she was before she became a Kong. They went that night. Amara refused to leave Maya alone, so the girl came with them, wrapped in a yellow coat and carrying the business card as if it were an official evaluation document. The address led them to a closed tea shop hidden inside a narrow alley. Dust covered the windows. The blue awning had faded almost gray. Taejun tried the door. Maya pointed above the frame. There is a moon. Carved into the wood was the same crescent symbol from the recipe journal. Amara removed the necklace. On the back of the silver flower was a thin metal pin she had always assumed was part of the clasp. She pressed it into the crescent. The lock clicked. Inside, the shop smelled of dust, dried citrus, and old wood. They found the kitchen behind a curtain. Copper pans still hung above the stove. Glass jars contained hardened sugar and faded labels written in Mrs. Moon's handwriting. Amara touched the work table. She taught me here. Taejun opened a cabinet. Me. They searched every shelf, drawer, and storage box. Nothing resembled the missing archive files. Maya wandered toward an old flour bin. Mom, this one is heavy. Taejun lifted the wooden container aside. Beneath it was a square section of flooring with no dust around its edges. Amara knelt and pulled the panel open. Inside lay a metal case. Box 14. The lock had already been broken. Most of its contents were gone. But whoever searched it had missed a false compartment beneath the lining. Amara lifted a thin envelope sealed with wax. Her name was written across the front. For Amara Bennett, when she is ready to stop asking permission. Amara's breath caught. She recognized the handwriting immediately. Taejun stepped back, allowing her to open it herself. Inside were 3 documents. The first granted Amara complete ownership of every recipe she had developed with Kang Sun-hee. The second named Amara as founding creative director of a planned independent culinary house, with 40% ownership. The third was a handwritten letter. Amara read aloud. My dear Amara, by the time you receive this, my family may have tried to convince you that gratitude requires silence. Does not. I did not teach you so you could spend your life protecting my name. I taught you so you would have the courage to protect your own. Amara stopped. Tears filled her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Taejun stared at his mother's signature. Below it was a final line addressed to him. Taejun, if you are standing beside her, do not rescue her. Tell the truth, return what belongs to her, and accept whatever she decides to do with you afterward. Maya looked between them. Your mother was very smart. She was, Taejun whispered. Amara examined the envelope again. Something small remained inside. A memory card. Back at the bakery, Dong-wook loaded the file onto an isolated computer. Kang Sun-hee appeared on the screen. She looked thinner than in Taejun's memories, but her voice remained clear. If this recording is being watched, Hiran has probably acted sooner than I expected. Taejun leaned closer. His mother explained that Siren's signature dessert collection had not come from one family. Generations of female kitchen workers, immigrants, widows, and apprentices had created the recipes, but the Kang family had removed their names. She had planned to expose the history at a company anniversary gala. Hiran discovered the plan. Then he said something that made the room go cold. My sister has also altered my medical records. If my death is called natural, Taejun must request an independent review. The screen went black. Taejun did not move. Amara looked at him. You think your aunt caused her death? I think my mother believed she might. The next morning, Taejun ordered Sun-hee's medical records secured. They were already missing. By noon, Hiran announced an emergency press conference. She accused Amara of blackmailing the Kang family with forged documents and manipulating Taejun through his grief. Siren released photographs of Taejun entering Bennett Bakery late at night. The headlines spread within minutes. Billionaire CEO ensnared by disgraced baker. Single mother claims secret right to Siren fortune. Reporters surrounded the bakery. Maya saw one of the headlines and slammed the tablet face down. They are lying again. Amara calmly tied her apron. Then we will tell the truth again. Taejun arrived through the back door. My aunt moved the anniversary gala to tomorrow night. She plans to have the board declare me mentally unfit and remove me as CEO. Because you investigated her? Because she believes grief has made me vulnerable to you. Amara looked at Sun-hee's letter. Hiran wanted a public battle. This time Amara would not enter unprepared. Let her hold the gala, she said. Taejun studied her face. What are you planning? Amara closed the recipe journal. Your mother intended to expose the truth in that ballroom. She placed the silver necklace around her neck. We are going to finish what she started. The Grand Siren ballroom looked exactly as it had the night Amara's cake was destroyed. The same crystal chandeliers. The same polished marble floor. The same wealthy guests pretending not to stare. But this time Amara did not enter through the service door. She walked through the main entrance wearing a deep emerald dress, the silver flower necklace resting openly against her skin. Maya held one hand. In the other, Amara carried the recipe journal Kang Sun. He had helped her create. Reporters surged toward them. Ms. Bennett, are you demanding ownership of Siren Hotels? Did you begin a relationship with CEO Kang to gain access to the company? Are the documents authentic? Amara stopped beneath the hotel's gold emblem. I am not asking for anything that belongs to the Kang family, she said calmly. I came for what belongs to me. Maya looked at the cameras. And my mother does not need a boyfriend to bake a cake. Amara closed her eyes briefly. Maya. What? They asked a rude question. Several reporters lowered their microphones to hide their smiles. Inside the ballroom, Hiran stood on stage beside Siren's board members. Behind her, a giant screen displayed photographs of Taejun entering Bennett Bakery. 12 years ago, Hiran announced, Amara Bennett attempted to claim recipes belonging to this family. Today, she has returned with forged documents, emotional manipulation, and a child she is using to gain public sympathy. The audience murmured. Taejun stood near the front row, separated from the stage by 3 security guards. Hiran had suspended his authority that morning. She had frozen his corporate accounts, removed his access to company records, and ordered the board to vote on his dismissal before midnight. Taejun is grieving, she continued. His judgment has been compromised by a woman who recognized his vulnerability. Amara entered the ballroom. The room fell silent. Hiran's smile tightened. You were not invited. Neither were the women whose recipes built your empire. Amara walked toward the stage with Maya beside her. Security moved to intercept them. Taejun stepped forward. Touch either of them, he said, and every camera in this room will record it. The guards hesitated. Hiran lifted one hand. Let her speak. The sooner everyone hears this fantasy, the sooner we can end it. Amara climbed the stage. 12 years earlier, she had stood in a school office while lawyers called her a thief. She had been young, grieving, and alone. She had tried to prove herself to people who had already decided her voice had no value. Tonight, she did not ask anyone's permission. She placed the recipe journal beneath the document camera. The screen displayed one of her earliest sketches, a wedding cake covered in gold magnolias. A date appeared in the corner. It had been drawn 18 months before Siren launched its signature collection. These are stolen copies, Hiran said. Amara turned the page. There were photographs of her preparing the design beside Sunhee. Ingredient receipts. Culinary school evaluations. Handwritten notes signed by both women. Then she displayed the partnership agreement. Gasps moved through the audience as the screen showed Amara's name beside a 40% ownership stake in Sunhee's planned culinary company. Hiran laughed. A private agreement that was never legally registered. It was registered, Taejun said. Everyone turned toward him. He held up a certified document. My mother filed it through an independent law firm in Switzerland. My aunt removed Siren's copy, but she could not erase the international registration. Hiran's face hardened. You accessed confidential family records while suspended. No, Taejun answered. Amara's attorney did. Amara's lawyer rose from the audience holding a second folder. The agreement is valid, she said. So are the intellectual property assignments transferring every jointly developed recipe to Ms. Bennett and Madam Kong Sunhee. The board members began whispering. Hiran looked toward the technical booth. Turn off the screens. Nothing happened. Dongwook stepped out from behind the booth. The system is no longer connected to Siren's internal network. For the first time that evening, Hiran appeared afraid. Amara connected the memory card. Sunhee's face filled the screen. The ballroom became completely still. My name is Kong Sunhee, the recording began. For decades, Siren Hotels has profited from recipes created by people whose names were deliberately removed. Old photographs appeared beside her. Women working in basement kitchens. Immigrant bakers preparing banquet desserts. Widows whose family recipes had been purchased for almost nothing. Young apprentices standing behind executives who later claimed their creations. Sunhee named them one by one. Then she spoke about Amara. She is not my assistant. She is not my student. She is my partner. The gold magnolia collection belongs to her. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Maya squeezed her hand. On screen, Sunhee continued. If my sister Hiran claims otherwise, ask why she altered my foundation records. Ask why she removed Box 14. And ask why my medication was changed 2 days before my death. The ballroom erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Board members stood from their chairs. One of Hiran's attorneys began packing his documents. Hiran reached for the microphone. "This recording is fabricated." "No," a voice called from the audience. An elderly man rose slowly. He had served as Sun-hee's private physician. "I prescribed no new medication that week." Hiran stared at him. The physician walked toward the stage. "Vice Chairwoman Kong ordered a sedative under my identification number. When I objected, she threatened my license. I remained silent because I was afraid." Taejun's face turned cold. "You knew." The doctor lowered his head. "I have regretted it every day." Police officers entered through the ballroom doors. Hiran stepped backward. "You cannot arrest me because of the accusations of a dead woman and a disgraced baker." Dong-wook held up the threatening note from Bennett Bakery. "The remote access used to disable the bakery's cameras originated from your private office. Your assistant has already confessed to sending the threat." Hiran looked around the room for support. No one moved. The same executives who had once followed her instructions now avoided her eyes. She turned to Taejun. "I protected this company for you. You protected your power. Everything I did was for this family." Taejun looked at Amara, then at the faces of the forgotten women displayed behind her. "No. You taught this family to survive by erasing everyone who made it valuable." As the police approached, Hiran pointed at Amara. "You think they will respect you now? They will use your face for a year, then replace you like all the others." Amara stepped closer. "They cannot replace the person who owns the work." Hiran was escorted from the ballroom while hundreds of cameras recorded the fall of the woman who had once controlled every story told inside Siren. The board vote continued. Taejun was cleared of misconduct, but he surprised everyone by stepping down temporarily as CEO. "Siren cannot investigate itself while I remain in control," he explained. "An independent council will review every disputed recipe, employment agreement, and create a credit in the company's history." Then he turned toward Amara. "Siren will publicly correct the accusations made against Dr. Bennett and compensate her for 12 years of unauthorized use." A board member leaned toward his microphone. "We can offer Ms. Bennett an executive position." Amara shook her head. "I do not want a position inside the company that stole from me." The man blinked. "Then what do you want?" "My recipes returned. My ownership recognized. Every living creator named and compensated. And a licensing agreement that allows small bakeries to use the collection without paying fees they cannot afford." The board members exchanged uneasy looks. Amara closed the journal. "You had 12 years to negotiate with a frightened young woman. She no longer exists." Taejun's mouth curved into the faintest smile. The board accepted her terms. 6 months later, Bennett Bakery no longer occupied one narrow storefront. Amara opened the Sun-hee and Bennett Culinary House inside the restored Buckshin tea shop. Young chefs received training, ownership rights, and legal protection for every recipe they developed. A framed photograph of Sun-hee hung above the original wooden table. Below it were the words, "Create bravely. Own what you create." Maya managed a small chalkboard near the entrance. It contained Taejun's progress report. Apologized properly. Complete. Listened before judging. Improving. Fixed what his family broke. Still working. Kept his promises. Complete. Taejun stood beneath the board holding a box of flour. "Why am I still carrying supplies?" "Because billionaires need exercise," Maya answered. Amara emerged from the kitchen wearing a flour-covered apron. "You know we have employees for that." "I was informed that money should not solve every problem." Maya nodded approvingly. "He remembers." Taejun placed the flour down and looked at Amara. Their relationship had not repaired itself in one speech or one public apology. He had spent months testifying, opening Siren's archives, and helping restore the names his family had erased. He never asked Amara to forgive him quickly. That patience was the first thing that made forgiveness possible. He reached into his coat and removed a small velvet box. Maya gasped. Amara raised one eyebrow. Taejun, it is not a ring. Maya looked disappointed. Inside was the missing petal from Sunhee's silver flower necklace, restored by the jeweler who had originally designed it. Taejun fastened it carefully into place. My mother left you part of her dream, he said. You made it your own. Amara looked at the completed flower. And what do you want? He met her eyes. A chance to know who you are when neither of us is standing inside my family's lie. Amara studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. One chance. Maya filled the final circle on his old business card. Does that mean he is no longer Mr. Dream Ruiner? June asked. She considered it. No. But you may now be Mr. Dream Repairman. Amara laughed. Taejun laughed with her. And in the kitchen where his mother had once hidden her dreams, the three of them began building something no family name, stolen recipe, or buried betrayal could ever take away. Not an empire. Home. And if Amara's journey reminded you that the truth may be delayed but never truly erased, like the video, subscribe, and tell us where you are watching from.